Good morning, good afternoon. Thank you for joining this audio webinar. We'll be talking about audio spatial evaluation this morning. This session is for our European and American colleagues, and we have another session tomorrow morning for China and the Asia Pacific region. So this morning, afternoon, depending on where you are, I will provide you a brief introduction about our company, and then we'll describe the overview of the audio protocol. And then we will follow with a video where we explain actually how we're doing the spatial evaluation, and then we'll have a Q&A session. So first, let me introduce myself. I am Nicolas. I have been in the company for 18 years, and I'm now the VP Marketing and primarily focusing on audio, battery, and display protocols. So a few words about the company. Many of you may already know us, certainly, but still for those of you who have not been exposed to our company, let me give you a few highlights. So we are a French technology company. We have many laboratories where we test camera, audio, display, and battery for a range of consumer electronics products. Our business is primarily for the industry. So we provide our measurement solutions, our protocols, our laboratories, as well as service to the industry. So basically to OEMs and consumer electronics product manufacturer to help them improving the quality of their products. And we are also the editor of the DXOMARK.com website, which is a website which has been around for almost 15 years, where we publish reviews of cameras, speakers, smartphones, and so forth. So our purpose is really to help consumer understanding the quality of the products they may purchase. So we provide reviews and scoring. And also we work with the industry to provide them our services, our solutions to help them, again, improving the quality of their consumer electronics, primarily focusing on multimedia functions like audio, camera, display, and also providing information about the battery, the energy consumption of these devices. So we've been in existence for 20 years now, starting in 2003 with an image quality evaluation solution. And then we gradually expanded our reach. We launched a website for smartphone quality reviews in 2008. Then we launched a camera and lens. Actually, that was the other way around. We started with camera, lenses, and then smartphones. We became independent 6 years ago and extended our reach to audio testing, then display testing, and recently battery testing. We also address other segments. Here's just a few, picture of our team. We're primarily based in Paris. We have offices in US and in Asia. And we are about 120 people, mostly with engineers and technicians. We have quite many labs for audio, display, battery, camera, and so forth. As I said, we are not only dealing with smartphone, camera, lens, but we're also addressing different products where multimedia functions play a role. So we deal with drones, with wearables, with computing now. We have a new protocol which we're going to launch soon on computing. We address smartphones, audio, camera, battery, display, all features of smartphones, as well as automotive, primarily focusing on ADAS system. And we also have some project on defense and security system addressing specific video, display, or camera functions. Our products and services basically are categorized in 4 categories. We have engineering services. So basically we provide test reports of the products that our customers send us. That could be prototypes or finished products. We also do performance benchmark. Basically, we can assess the performance of their product against a range of competitive products. We can also help them developing and tuning the products, especially when there is a challenging software tuning in their product. And we also address advanced studies when there is a specific topic to be addressed with our customers. We also provide our lab solutions. So basically providing the tools we use for testing inside our laboratories. We provide not only the labs, but the protocol and documentation to undertake and to perform the perceptual evaluation as we perform it in our own facility. We have quite an extensive range of training capabilities. And so we've done this for a while for camera, but we also, and for display, for audio. So we can provide this only for specific customers, or actually do it for a larger audience. As we are providing support to customers who are implementing our lab, we also provide them with perceptual evaluation training and so forth. So a range of academy products, if you like. And also, lastly, since we have measured hundreds of products for more than about 15 years, basically, we have a very large database of performance metrics, performance score and test results for all the products we test. So we have a good understanding of the quality of a large selection of products, and we can also assess what's the benefit of each technology and what are the trends and how each product perform with respect to each other. So this database and the data mining tools are also available to our customers. With regards to our testing protocol, they are somewhat specific versus what you can find from other vendors. We are combining testing in a lab environment and testing in actual consumer situation, so in real life settings. So we have labs, obviously, but also rooms, apartments, or even we can do outdoor. We do a range of tests in real life situations. So it's very important to actually combine both, because for audio, display, camera, and all that relates to the human sense, it's very difficult to assess the performance only for objective measurements. So we need to combine actual physics, physical measurements with testing instruments in the lab, as well as perceptual evaluation on the products themselves. So our tests, basically, we're focusing that they are user-centric. So we define the user scenario, and we'll come to that for Spatial. We are scientific. We base our test on the state-of-the-art tools and industry guidelines and on standards. We are transparent, so you can look at our website and you will find the formula and exactly how we test. And we are independent. Basically, we are 100% funded by a private fund, and we have no connection with whatever OEMs or any parties involved in the manufacturing or the development of a consumer electronics product. Our scores has been used for a while in the industry. They could be used by CEOs at the time of launch. So we've had some success in the past with many brands, and showing and promoting their products by telling their audience about the top score or the performance of their products. We have not only the scores, but we have also developed labels and stamps so that OEMs can use this information in their commercials. Stamps or labels are somewhat more easier for consumer to understand rather than a score. So basically, we have a range of marketing assets that our customers can use to promote the quality of their product. And we have also a long history of connection with the press, whether it's tech press or general press. So we've had a number of media using our scores, metrics to actually augment their reviews, or making articles about new products when they are launched. So basically, that's it about the company. So I leave the floor to Justin, who is the product owner and who is actually the head of all our audio product development here at DXOMARK. Justin?
Thank you, Nicolas. So I will present you a bit about the way we build the protocols for audio at DXOMARK, so that we can transition just after on the specific evaluation for Spatial. So the way we build the protocols, first of all, is we listen to the market and to consumers, and we try to have a look at what is interesting in terms of testing and what requires some data so that the consumer can choose a device based on audio performance. So over the years, from 2019 to now, we've been building quite a lot of protocols which are assessing the audio quality for anything from smartphone to wireless speakers through webcams, TVs, soundbars, and so on. So we are able to test a wide range of products. All of the products that you see are not necessarily public, but we are able to test a lot of products. And when a testing protocol is mature enough, and if we see traction, we go ahead and publish it on DXOMARK.com. So the way we build our scores and our protocols, so it all starts with features. So we analyze the products and we have a look at the features which are available in terms of audio. So for example, for a smartphone, it will maybe playback for playing back sounds such as music, movies, games, maybe recording, if you're using the microphones included to record content, maybe audio or video, and so on. We list the features and we select the one we want to evaluate. And then we move to use cases. So use cases are a combination of a place, a situation, a condition, a set of conditions that the user set or that are dictated by the environment. So we define use cases which are interesting to test. So for example, for smartphone, we may have music playback, games, concert recording, selfie videos, and so on. Then what we do is we split by attributes, which are taken from the industry. So we split all of the evaluations that we do into multiple attributes. So timbre, spatial, dynamics, volume, and artifacts. And we may add a bit more depending on the products, but that are the main 5 that we use. And finally, taken from the standards in the industry, we also split these attributes into sub-attributes. For example, timbre will be split into bass, mid-range, treble, tonal balance, and so on. So on this webinar, we're going to present to you the way we evaluate spatial, so across multiple features, across multiple use cases, and we'll present the sub-attributes we use and how to evaluate them. So the way we define the use cases, so we take all of the variables, we list them, and we try to combine them into relevant use cases. Since we are testing a lot of products, we try to make the use cases representative of what the user are actually doing with our product, and also to be quite difficult to attain. So for example, concert recording is a very interesting use case because it's difficult to do properly. Finally, we take all of what we have defined and we build scores from it. So we take the use cases we have selected and we build scores from it based on the feedback we have from users. We do consumer surveys, we take feedback from the industry, and we also take feedback from retailers, which are, which have the consumers in front of them every day to sell products. So we build score from that. So now that we have defined everything, so we will have a short pre-recorded video that we will play, which goes through all the aspects of playback evaluation. And we will come back after. If you have any questions, feel free to send your questions in the Q&A so that we have questions to answer when we come back. And we will do a short conclusion after that. So the video is about 20-25 minutes. Feel free to ask your question in the chat.
What is spatial? And why is it important to evaluate the spatial performance of a device? Let's start with some examples. Have you paid attention, when you go to the movies, how much you're surrounded by sound and how this contributes to a feeling of immersion? Let me tell you, the experience you have when all your senses are active is always more powerful. Going to a symphonic concert, hearing the horns in the distance while the strings resonate in proximity, almost within you, what a wonderful sensation, isn't it? But sometimes you just want to watch a movie at home or listen to your favorite album on your personal speakers. And it's not the same thing, right? However, what if I told you that at that precise moment of enjoyment, your brain is doing something very unexpected? Even though you're not at a concert, you can still hear the horns in the distance and the strings inches from you. You can pinpoint the auditory details of a movie with a great precision, as if they were real. Even though you're just in a room with 2 speakers. Well, at least. This is what we aim to evaluate in our labs at DXOMARK. Stereophony is an important feature that is the first degree of sound specialization. Play a sound on just one speaker, and the sound will unquestionably radiate from the speaker position. Now, play the same sound at the same time with a second speaker. Your brain will be tricked into thinking that the sound comes from in between, other than no speaker here. This is what we call a virtual sound source. It's just a construction of your mind. This particular case, where the source is in the middle of a stereo system, is referred to as the phantom center. Balance refers to how well centered this virtual sound source is located when a sound is played on both left and right speaker. While the concept is easy to grasp, sometimes, especially when the smartphone has asymmetrical speakers, balance requires special attention and can be tricky to tune. In opposition to devices with symmetrical speakers, in which we could say that a correct balance is already built in. Now, let's move on to the next sub-attribute. Let's take our stereo system. We thought that when we're playing the same sound on both speakers, we can evaluate the correct balance of a system. Now, what if we play a more complex stereo signal, music for instance, with instruments that are not supposed to be in the middle? Localizability is the ability to precisely determine the virtual sound source position within the stereophonic field. For instance, take a music track with a specific instrument placed at 20 degrees on the right of a stereo field. Can you easily pinpoint its location and discriminate it from the other instrument's position? Now, we want to know how wide can the stereo image be perceived. Is the stereophonic field limited to the speaker's axis, or can it extend beyond their physical position? This is what we evaluate for the wideness sub-attribute. Take our stereo system again. Let's process one of our channels with a simple filter. The spectral amplitude and phase response of our 2 channels are now slightly different. Yes, they still share some information at the center of the image, but you can clearly hear some elements that detach themselves from the center and that appear either left or right. You can now perceive some stereo width, a relative distance between the leftmost and the rightmost source, and that's what we define as wideness. It's pretty common in the industry to use wideness enhancement algorithm by processing the 2 channels. While it can extend the wideness beyond the hardware limitation of the device, it can also induce unwanted effects such as a void in the middle of the stereo field or a loss of localizability. So, we are able to identify the location of a sound source. But what about distance perception? In short, distance refers to how far the evaluated element is perceived from the sound source. This sub-attribute also relies on other ones, such as loudness and timbre. In the first case, quieter sounds can be perceived as being too far away from the correct source location. Inaccurate timbre can also impact the distance rendition, but this will deserve its own dive-in. It's an important sub-attribute in recording, especially for vocal-based content, as it really helps to maintain great intelligibility. For the depth sub-attribute, we evaluate the perceived distance between the closest and the furthest sound sources within the stereo field. In some musical content, a symphony concert, for instance, frontal instruments, such as violins, are supposed to be perceived closer than percussions placed in the back of the stage. While distance is about perceiving a single sound source at its correct position in space, depth is the recreation of the full sound image from background to foreground. Now, let's talk about directivity. For a recording device, it's the difference in sound pressure level captured by the device, depending on the angle of incidence. When it comes to speakers, it's the difference in radiated sound pressure level, depending on the angle. It should be noted that the expected directivity is very use case dependent. If we are in a meeting on a video conference application at home using a smartphone, then the system is expected to isolate our voice from the background noise and surrounding sources. On the contrary, if we are in a conference room with our team, the recording device should be able to capture all the attendees at the same level, regardless of the angle to the device. Audio zoom is a feature that is becoming increasingly common in smartphones today. This stems from a natural phenomenon studied in psychoacoustics called the cocktail party effects, where the brain is able to focus its auditory attention on particular source while filtering out a range of surrounding sound sources. The name is derived from the situation where the listener is able to focus on a single conversation while in a noisy environment, like a party. In short, audio zoom is a form of audio filtering which aims to isolate a sound source from its surroundings in correlation with the smartphone's camera focal point and zoom level. The main technology behind audio zoom is called beamforming or spatial filtering. Based on a microphone array, it can be passive or adaptive and allows to change the recording's directivity and to focus on a specific angle. This was a very basic presentation of the theory behind spatial, which we divided into multiple sub-attributes and features for evaluations. To recap, the sub-attributes we have: directivity, balance, localizability, wideness, distance, and depth. Now, let's have a quick tour of our different labs. The first one is AffectStream, with its semi-anechoic room. The idea of an anechoic room is to prevent any wall reflection by absorbing the incoming sound waves thanks to the foam cones all around. This ensures an almost reflection-free environment for our objective tests. In our case, the semi-anechoic term points to the fact that the ground is a reflective surface. Here, we use a rotating table in front of an array of microphones or a speaker to measure the recording and playback directivity of a device. The next one is our Marauder lab. In its recording room, you can see how the device is surrounded by a crown of speakers. This way, we can simulate real-life scenarios where multiple sounds come from multiple directions, with spatial filtering to recreate realistic backgrounds on a limited number of speakers. We also place the device in different orientation to evaluate its performance. These use cases are used to evaluate aspects such as recording wideness, localizability, and distance. Let's now have a look at our Carpenter lab. Here, our sound engineers use different setups to evaluate the smartphone's playback performances. We use a device comparison stand in most of our perceptual protocols. It allows for up to 6 smartphones to be held next to each other in optimal conditions. The clamps holding the device can rotate to set the phones in landscape or portrait orientation. Most smartphones have a very limited or inexistent stereophony when held in portrait, but there are some exceptions with foldable phones, which may contain more than 2 speakers. These unique devices have huge potential when it comes to the spatial attributes. In landscape orientation, most smartphones allow stereo playback, and it should be noted that mono devices are not faring very well in spatial. Sound engineers also use reflectors or reflective panel to enhance the balanced rendition of a device, thus allowing for greater precision in our results. As the spatial attributes evaluation is based on perception, it's very critical for our evaluations to be use case dependent. This is why we also perform tests holding the device in our hands. In a much less predictable way than the reflective panels, an end user holding his smartphone with his hands will induce occlusion and reflections, affecting not only timbre and volume, but also spatial characteristics. Depending on the speaker's configuration and directivity, this can either serve the device or not. Just like the smartphone evaluations, our home speaker protocol also relies on several use cases for perceptual evaluations. We have turned this apartment into a lab to reproduce an environment as close as possible to real-life scenarios in the acoustic of a real apartment, whether we're in the kitchen, in the living room, or in the bathroom. First, let's have a look at the overall spatial performance of two smartphones in recording. The Black Shark 5 Pro performs very well in spatial, with an overall score of 136. The Nubia Red Magic 3S does not perform as well, with a score of 73.
Paper is scarce, so write with much care.
Send news to fire to gate.
Put the chart on the mental impact down.
Paper is scarce, so write with much care.
Send news to fire to gate.
Put the chart on the mental impact down.
The Black Shark offers a realistic distance rendition. Its localizability is great, as it's easy to precisely pinpoint sources. The overall rendition is well spread across the stereo field, offering a very immersive sound rendition. Regarding the Nubia performance, the device does not feature a realistic distance rendition. Voices sound too far. It also suffers from its monophonic recordings, which impair wideness and localizability performance. Overall, the device does not offer an immersive sound rendition. It should be noted that, in this case, spatial is greatly impaired by a very dark and muffled timbre rendition. Now, let's make a comparison between two speakers. The JBL L75MS music system offers an excellent spatial performance with an overall score of 111. The Denon Home 250 does not do that great with a score of 67. Let's listen to them. The JBL features an excellent wideness. The sound field is very immersive. Its localizability is also excellent. It's very easy to pinpoint each element. However, distance rendition is inconsistent, impaired by its dark and muffled sound signature. The Denon suffers from its poor wideness and its unrealistic distance rendition. It's also impaired by a muffled sound signature and suffers from imprecise localizability. As we said earlier, the monophony and stereophony play an important role in spatial. So let's listen to the difference between our next two speakers. On one side, we have the Apple HomePod, which is a monophonic speaker. And on the other, we have the Denon Home 250, a stereophonic speaker. Yes, the Apple does not feature an immersive sound rendition compared to the Denon, because due to the fact that the device is monophonic, wideness and localizability are inexistent. Now, we're going to have a closer look at the sub-attributes, starting with the balanced performance of two speakers. The Harman Kardon Aura Studio 3 features an excellent balanced performance with a score of 0, while the DALI Catch doesn't perform as well with a score of -19. Indeed, the Harman Kardon sound rendition is perfectly balanced. When it comes to the DALI, the overall sound rendition is skewed toward the left, resulting in an unbalanced rendition. Let's now listen to two different speakers' wideness performances with the JBL L75MS music system and the Harman Kardon Aura Studio 3. The JBL offers an excellent wideness with an 84 score, while the Harman Kardon performs less well with a 23 score. Indeed, the JBL features an excellent wideness. The sound field is very immersive. On the contrary, the Harman Kardon suffers from a very narrow wideness, resulting in a not very immersive sound rendition. Now, let's compare the recording localizability performance of two smartphones. The Black Shark 4 Pro, which offers an 86 score, and the OnePlus 9, performing less well with a 50 score.
The fruit of a fig tree is apple-shaped. The fruit of a fig tree is apple-shaped.
Put the chart on the mental intact ground. Put the chart on the mental intact ground.
The fruit of a fig tree is apple-shaped. The fruit of a fig tree is apple-shaped.
Put the chart on the mental intact ground. Put the chart on the mental intact ground.
With the Black Shark, it's quite easy to pinpoint sound sources within the stereo field. Its wideness is good, which helps localizability performance. With the OnePlus, the localizability is blurrier, and the wideness is also more limited, which impairs the performance. The device also suffers from its unnatural sound signature. Another important sub-attribute for the vocal-based content recording is the distance rendition. We have, on one side, the Black Shark 4 Pro, with a great 93 score. And on the other side, the Nubia Red Magic 3S with a 52 score.
Paper is scarce, so write with much care. Paper is scarce, so write with much care.
Atoms fall with the next puff of wind.
Paper is scarce, so write with much care. Paper is scarce, so write with much care.
Atoms fall with the next puff of wind.
The Black Shark offers a great distance rendition, as it's realistic compared to the original sources. Regarding the Nubia performance, its distance rendition is not very realistic. Voices sound too distant. Note that the performance is also impaired by its unnatural recording sound signature. Depth rendition is also very important for audio playback. Here, we have the Asus ROG Phone 6 with an excellent score of 95, and the Nubia Red Magic 3S again with a low score of 5. Indeed, the Asus offers a great sense of depth, featuring a realistic space between the closest and the farthest elements. On the contrary, the Nubia does not feature that depth rendition. The overall off-centered rendition doesn't help the performance. Let's now have a listen to some directivity examples with two speakers. The Apple HomePod Mini, with a 126 score, and the Harman Kardon Station 200 with a 62 score. Regarding the Apple's performance, the directivity is excellent, as the sound rendition remains consistent with the angle, because even if the speaker is monophonic, it features a 360 sound rendition. For the Harman Kardon, the sound rendition is not consistent with the angle, as the timbre becomes darker and more muffled, especially at 180 degrees. And this can easily be explained by the speaker being more front-focused. Last example, the audio zoom feature. Here, we're going to compare the Honor Magic 4 Pro with an excellent 73 score and the Oppo Reno 8 Pro 5G with a 17 score.
The store walls were lined with colored frock. The Peace League met to discuss their plan. The rise to fame of a person takes luck. Paper is scarce, so write with much care. The store walls were lined with colored frock. The Peace League met to discuss their plan. The rise to fame of a person takes luck. Paper is scarce, so write with much care.
The Honor offers a very good directivity, as side rejection is very efficient. Voice remains natural, while background noises are very well handled. Its recording loudness is also quite consistent. When it comes to the Oppo, despite a pretty good directivity, the voice is less natural and the background is not very realistic. The recording loudness is also very inconsistent and the background noises are not very well reduced.
Thank you very much for joining us. And again, we are really ready to answer any questions and to provide you any other information you may be interested in. So thank you for joining, and we'll be in touch.